Hello to you too.
So, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here for the finale of the social media series. And yes, we did this last year. This was actually the thing that kicked off the summer social media series for Manchester's Chamber of Commerce whole thing. This time we get to be the anchor position, which is really awesome. We do have some data about how things have been changing, not just since last year, but actually over the last 3 years. So I'm really excited to share some of that with you. I just have to figure out whether I have to push right or down. Right. Okay. Got it. One thing before we get started, if any of you are here on Twitter, we would greatly appreciate it if you would tweet. I'm saying we because even though Lonnie could not be here, she's still kind of like stuck here in my head. We often have this conversation like, am I imagining you or are you imagining me or how does this work? But so the we just means her, even though she's off on a field trip with our 6-year-old. So unfortunately, she could not be here, but she sends her regards. We'd very much like it if you would either tweet or post on Instagram or Vine. How many of you go on Vine? I saw one tentative hand go up there. Yay! All right, yes, with more feeling. And use that hashtag, and what we're going to do is we're going to create something on Storify. Have you heard of Storify? Some of you may have. Basically a way of curating social media stories by taking all the tweets and Instagram posts and Vine and other social media channels and plucking bits and pieces out of there so you can create a story about a particular event, a particular thing about your business. God bless you. It's a really neat and interesting tool, and we share it on all our social media channels and on our blog as well. So we'd love to feature you and your business in there as well. So please, if you tweet or post, just use that AHAFB hashtag, and you will become a part of that story. Now, for those of you who don't know us, our company is about just over 10 years old now. And we have been doing digital marketing, online marketing. God, I did the number recently. It's like 16 years. It's ridiculous. We are also the people who started the state social media conference, the AHA Summit, which will be in its 6th year this year at Southern New Hampshire University on November 13th, Thursday. Mark your calendar. We also are the people who started this thing called the AHA Tribe, and we have a couple of people in here who are from the tribe, which is basically a social media mentoring and training and mastermind community, and we'll talk a little bit about that toward the end of the program. We've had a Facebook profile since 2007, and we've had our Facebook page for Epiphanies since 2009, so we've been at it quite a while. We've actually been tracking New Hampshire Facebook data internally since September of 2010. So just every month, popping open Facebook ads, popping open the spreadsheet, and entering the data. So we've been watching this for quite a while, and even though we've been sharing stats and workshops here and there, we finally in 2013 said, you know what? All this historical data we've been gathering and all the data that Facebook makes publicly available to advertisers in the aggregate, not necessarily on individual people for us, all that information is really very valuable. So we came up with the idea to do a State of New Hampshire on Facebook report that we released that got a lot of coverage in the Union Leader, front page of the business section, front page of the New Hampshire Business Review, all this awesome stuff, and then the Chamber invited us to do it. And so we thought, well, heck, let's do it again, because people seem to really like it and really like the information. So what we'll cover is what the State of New Hampshire looks like on Facebook in terms of demographics, usage by the top cities and towns. We'll cover mobile usage, which is actually really startling. That's probably the biggest thing that jumped out at me this time around. Select sociographics, some activities and interests, and then key advertising success tips and tricks. That's something that I think is going to be really valuable for everybody here. How many of you are already using Facebook for advertising? So 1, 2, 3. Okay, got it. Are you doing a little, a lot? Little. Okay, so hopefully what we give you here for information is going to actually get you fired up about that, which would be really awesome. Anytime you have questions during this presentation, we've got 2 hours. The presentation is designed for 1 hour, basically. We don't have 2 hours, we have an hour and a half. We had 2 hours last year. I don't know if it's a half hour away from us. So ask questions anytime. We're going to have time to go online, and if you actually want to see within Facebook's ad platform some of the things that we're talking about, I'd be happy to show you. There are searches that you can do that are going to be more relevant to your specific business. So if you want to try different keywords and terms and figure out just right here whether your audience is actually on Facebook, chances are they are, then we can give you some numbers while we're here. But feel free to chime in. And in the meantime, be thinking about the attributes you'd like to know about for your own audience. All right. This one, not that one. So, how many of you were here for the Scrambled Eggs and Social Media event? See, oh, about half of you. Okay, so you remember the Rebus, right? So don't spoil it for everybody else. Anybody, Rebus's? I had to bring it back. I just had to. All right, so this is the thing about social advertising. Anybody who wasn't there for the early morning one, have a guess of what we're actually trying to say here?
No, cute.
Can you just tell them that that's not Pam Anderson, that's Britney Spears?
No, that is Britney. Yeah, that's not Pam Anderson. That's Britney Spears. That's.
Better now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. No, all right, I won't belabor it. Social advertising, this is what it's about. It's like fishing, but not with a net, funicello, for those of you who don't know, but with a spear. And this is Lisa Landry from Saturday Workshop had talked about this in regards to LinkedIn advertising. And I would say that it's even probably more so the case with Facebook advertising, because the level of information that people share about themselves on Facebook is so enormously great compared to what gets shared on LinkedIn. So I think there's really an awesome opportunity for all of us here. So this is the big number. 740,000 New Hampshire residents with Facebook profiles right now. This is up from about 630,000 over the last, that was actually 2011, it was 630,000. So we're up about 15, 16%. Pretty remarkable. Now when you consider that the audience, or actually the population of New Hampshire is like 1.3 million, but then you have to take out all these 0 through 12-year-olds in that population because they're not allowed to have accounts on Facebook. So you're talking about maybe just over 1 million people who are actually Facebook eligible, and close to 3 out of 4 people have Facebook accounts. The penetration is really amazingly terrific. And it doesn't matter where you are in New Hampshire necessarily. We've looked at Coos County, which is, of all places in New Hampshire, probably the one that has the, what's the word I'm looking for? The potential for being less on Facebook because of internet and broadband and all of that. And their adoption rate is not very far behind the rest of the state at all, actually. They're in the 60s+% wise. So everybody pretty much is on Facebook, and if they're not on there, they're getting on there. So let's talk about who is on Facebook. All right, everybody say, I love data, I love graphs, right? Yeah? Okay, because you're going to get a lot of it, all right? But yeah, we'll try to keep it a little happy-go-lucky in the meantime. So starting with the ladies. This is what Facebook looks like for the ladies right now. And in blue, and actually, I guess I should ask, can everybody see the screen and the numbers, or should I turn the lights on?
Light down.
Yes. Turn the lights. Yep, not that one. That one. How's that?
Much better.
Excellent. Okay. So, blue bar is 2011. Red bar is 2014. So you can see that pretty much in almost every age category, female population on Facebook has been increasing. The one glaring exception, women. I know it sounds odd to say women 13 to 17, but that's what they tell you. You're seeing a drop there, and surprise, surprise, you're going to see that on the men's side as well. So, and by the way, you all are going to get a copy of this presentation because they're going to send along your email addresses and whatnot. So don't necessarily worry about madly scribbling everything because you'll get it all. You can see also that men are generally slower to adopt it. There is still some growth, particularly in the 35 to 44 and 45 to 54, as we all get nostalgic about high school and college and decide not to go to reunions and instead just look at what people are doing on Facebook. But you will also see the same thing, 13 to 17 years old, people are not being on Facebook. They're not adopting it. Now, on the one hand, how many of you have all seen reports about the graying of New Hampshire? A few people there. News reports saying that I think actually they said 4 out of 10 counties are dying in New Hampshire, which is a really that's a really pulpy way of putting it. So this is playing part of that trend, the fact that we actually have an aging population in New Hampshire. So on the one hand, that's what that's about. But then people like to get all worked up and freak out about young people aren't being on Facebook. And so what does this mean? That we have to get off of Facebook? Well, the amazing thing is that every different survey has a different answer about this. So this is actually a story that was posted yesterday on the Wall Street Journal, where Forrester Research said teens say they're using Facebook more. More than a year ago, more than half respondents, all between the ages of 12 and 17, who those 12-year-olds are, they should get off Facebook because they're not allowed. But it's basically doubled the use over the last year. So Facebook usage is still there, and these days, if teenagers are not on Facebook, then they're on Instagram, which is a hugely widely adopted app for teenagers, and also WhatsApp, the messaging platform. And guess what? They're both owned by Facebook anyway, so they're still on Facebook, as it turns out. And the ridiculous thing about it is that they know, that Facebook knows how powerful this is to stay connected with this audience or to keep them sort of in their brain fold, because they bought Instagram a couple years ago for $1 billion. Anybody know how much they spent for WhatsApp?
19 billion.
Yeah, 19 billion right there. Yeah, crazy money, crazy money. And where are they getting this money? From us, advertising. Okay, so thank you. Now that's how they're doing it. They're keeping teenagers in the fold by making us shell out for it. Kind of sound familiar? Yeah, it's like parenthood. So Facebook is still the dominant network here in Ebrado for 1.3 billion users and still climbing. Growth in the US is generally plateaued, but New Hampshire growth is actually still going strong. This is, let's see, it's 15% growth in New Hampshire since 2011 versus a actual like 0.16 population growth for the state of New Hampshire. So it's still, gosh, you know, I wouldn't like to say that New Hampshire is like behind the times per se, but the fact that the audience is still growing that quickly, it seems that we're behind the life cycle comparatively to, say, you know, major metropolitan centers, for example. And despite this, looking at, say, Instagram and WhatsApp and the fact that we've got more choices in mobile and more choices in social media platforms, we're starting to see attention fragment a little to Pinterest and to Twitter and to Instagram and to Vine and that sort of thing. Dare I ask how many people in the room are on Pinterest? Me too? Okay, yes. Yes, so when I say your attention is fragmenting and going a little more toward Pinterest, you know what I mean, right? Yes, exactly. So that being said, Facebook is all we're going to really talk about today, but it is not the be-all, end-all necessarily, and ultimately it becomes about targeting you know, the right message to the right person, but in the right place at the right time. And we'll talk about how you can do that with Facebook. If I get this to work. There we go. A little bit about income and education levels on Facebook. And this is just men and women. This is just a 2014 snapshot. This is not historical data. Generally speaking, you see like the biggest bump in here in the 50 to 75,000 range, followed closely by 75 to 100K, and then 100, 125, and 125 plus. So generally speaking, a little more affluent. I think Pinterest actually runs slightly more affluent than that. And then the education level, definitely very high college level and high school level as well. There's about 1,500 people with doctorate degrees on Facebook in the state of New Hampshire if you are looking to advertise to doctorate degree people. And the reason why we're sharing like these kinds of details, and we'll share a few more here and there, but there's a ton of data that's out there about Facebook, and it literally comes to your imagination, to your knowledge and passion about your own business organization that can drive what you do in Facebook and how you target people with advertising campaigns. And not just that, but also how you actually evaluate, for those of you who have Facebook pages already and have a significant New Hampshire audience, to actually look at that audience and learn more about them. Has anybody ever tried to do a pages liked by people who like search? I know that sounds like a big mouthful. So if you go to, and I guess we'll demonstrate this a little later, but if you were to go to Facebook and you go in the search bar and you're just logged in as yourself, and you type in the search bar, pages liked by people who like New England College, for example, then what you're going to do is you're going to see basically a list of a number of different pages that they're going to look at the whole scope of your liker base, and whichever pages pop up like the most, you know, like out of all the other pages in the world, more of our likers like, you know, the Manchester Monarchs, or more of our likers like the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, or more of our likers like Finger Puppets Now, or something like that, right? So you'll be able to actually see that kind of information, and you'll see what your interests are, what your fan page likers' interests are, and it helps you tailor your communications and your messages to the kinds of things that they're interested in, because it's really all about them, right? It's never about us. Okay, lots of numbers, lots of numbers. This is the top 25 cities and towns on Facebook by order of Facebook population. Manchester being the biggest, at 90,000 people in Manchester who are on Facebook. When you do this, when you look at different towns and cities, they will give you the option of doing basically, you know, the city itself, or plus 10 miles, plus 25 miles, plus 50 miles. All of this is pulled on just the city itself. No surrounding areas or communities or anything like that. And you'll see it drops way off pretty quick. From Manchester to Nashua, it goes from 90 to 54,000, then to Concord, 34,000. We're seeing drops, particularly in, say, where is this? Durham, for example, and we pulled this data. Actually, I'm previewing a slide 2 slides from now, so I won't tell you that just yet. So we're seeing a little bit of a bounce here and there. Most of them are going up, like Salem and Rochester are going up, but there's just a slight drop in Manchester, slight drop in Concord. Nothing too scary, and then the ones that are really big are actually due to some other factor I'll tell you about in a minute. All right, so good news is that you'll have the presentation for this one, because it went off somewhere over there. What I want to show you with this is the fact that just because a town doesn't, like falls lower on the list in terms of the amount of people who are on Facebook, the actual adoption within the population varies. This time Manchester is actually in first place. Last year they were in third. They were the, not the most Facebook population in the state of New Hampshire. And we found out that places like, say, Laconia or Durham, that had been 15th and 18th on the list, they actually were very networked in by comparison when we looked at the entire percentage of the population that had Facebook accounts. So basically, population doesn't necessarily equal Facebook penetration. You want to look at your town and see how deeply Facebook is rooted into it, assuming that you're actually marketing locally to one town. But you may end up expanding that because some of you have businesses that touch all across New Hampshire. So it is a little bit different. What we do see, like with Durham, where they drop 16%, is that college town population fluctuations get reflected in Facebook too. People are actually updating their profiles to let people know where they are. Actually, they're not in Durham anymore. They've gone home for the summer. We pulled this information after spring sessions were done. And something I mentioned about the pages liked by people who like, that's what graph search is all about. And business check-ins for people who have local businesses. How many of you have Facebook pages where it's a local business where people can check in on it? Okay. Yeah, right. So the thing with check-ins now is that everything that used to be known like for Foursquare for the check-in, right? And when's the last time you heard anything about Foursquare?
Yeah.
Right? Right? And the funny thing is I posted a photo to Instagram, and for the ones I actually typed, yeah, I'll add that to Foursquare too. Honestly, I did a whole thing on Foursquare Day like four years ago, actually, like multiple videos on it. I think Foursquare is great. Foursquare has like 50 million users now. That's nothing to sneeze at, but it's definitely not getting the same traction. Now they're like unbundling their app to create like multiple apps in the suite. I don't think it's gonna last at this rate. But the point is that Facebook has kind of become its own universe in terms of check-ins, and it's not even playing in a realm where Foursquare and Yelp and Google have anything to do with anything. So by all means, we recommend at this point that if you do have a local business and you're looking for check-ins and getting visibility that way, don't worry about Foursquare anymore. Consider Yelp for all the reviews that you can get as well, because people do definitely get active on there. And the same thing with Google, because it's bringing in reviews from all sorts of different places. But pay attention to Facebook check-ins on Google, because it gives you the opportunity to be seen by a wider network of people than check-ins on Yelp or Google reviews will be. Here's a thing that kind of blew my mind. Mobile devices. A couple of different things about it. First of all, Apple-related operating system devices overtook Android operating devices this year. So for everybody who said, well, Apple's great, but there are more Android devices all running around in the world. Well, the balance is now shifting. And the other thing that's crazy about this is something that you have to kind of think about a little bit to figure out. Out of 740,000 people in New Hampshire who are on Facebook, if you add the all total here, which is about 300,000 for 300,000 here for Android and about 375 or so for iOS, that is 675,000 people out of the 740. So that's that's about 90% of people who are using Facebook here in New Hampshire are using it on a mobile device. So how many of you have a mobile-friendly website? About a third of the room, okay? So if you don't, I would suggest to you that this may be a wake-up call to be considering strongly what your mobile strategy or what your mobile presence looks like. The last stat I heard is that 61% of people who come to your website, and if it's not mobile-friendly, if they have pinch and zoom and that stuff, that they leave immediately. So it's something very important to consider. And it also sheds a light on the fact that we've become sort of an app culture. And in fact, right now, prime time, television time, you know, we used to think it was like the 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. time. It's not really prime time anymore, it's app time, because app usage actually peaks from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it's greater than the audience for regular broadcast television happening now. Especially, like, they're already leveraging on the whole second screen thing with the fact that people are sitting with their phones and their tablets while they're watching TV if they're not time shifting it anyway, right? But the point is that we are all living in a very mobile, app-dominated thing, and we've already hit the tipping point for it. So it is very, very pertinent for everybody in here to consider that as part of their strategy. We actually are doing better than the rest of the US population. About 80% of US Facebook users are on mobile devices, and we're running around 90. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it mobile exclusively, but they're doing it often enough that it matters. And we're seeing that even in the advertising side of things, that the audience, when you decide to advertise on mobile devices in the mobile newsfeed versus if you decide to advertise on the desktop newsfeed, your reach potential is actually greater for advertising in mobile than it is for desktop, which is really crazy. That also means that because we are all, I mean, we're all short attention span people to begin with, right? Aside from being here for an hour and a half, so then I have to do things like, you know, shuffle and then just to make sure that you're paying attention. I haven't lost you. You have to be thinking about short, punchy, and visual for all your posts on Facebook as well. Photos and video already favored by Facebook's newsfeed in general, but even more so by the mobile device, because that's how they get engagement. That's how Facebook knows that you're actually paying attention and interested to what's being posted on there, because if you're not, if they're showing you just stuff that you're not going to like or comment or share on, then you're going to get bored with Facebook and you're going to go away. And they can't have that at all. So short, punchy, and visual. Any of you install custom tabs on your Facebook page for like we have our Twitter account there. We've done like landing pages for special reports and whatnot. Some of those apps that you use, like WooBox or North Social or Wildfire or other ones like that, Easy Promos, etc., they should all now have mobile-friendly links for those custom tab installs. But if that's something to make sure that they do offer that for you, whatever provider you choose for that, because if they don't, then people who come to try to get to that custom tab through a mobile device won't be able to get to it. Say, for example, you tweet out a link. Oh yeah, we have a special, we have a special white paper to download, and you have to put the link to your Facebook custom tab, but can't get there. Or we're running a Facebook contest for a free night stay at the Radisson, and you have a link to go to your Facebook page. If that app is not mobile friendly, then they won't be able to get to it on their mobile device. And considering how many people are using it, that would be a real problem if they couldn't get there. The ad costs are higher, generally speaking, on mobile devices, but the conversion rates are higher, the click-through rates are higher, and ultimately the cost per lead is lower in our experience. So it sounds like at first when you look at it and you see the dollars going out, you're like, oh, but then when you look a little closer, it is actually ultimately a more cost-effective way of advertising. But we do definitely recommend splitting your ad spends between desktop and mobile, and if you do that, you'll have a better sense of how one or the other is performing. Because if you actually let Facebook have desktop and mobile news feeds in the same advertising set, then what will happen is Facebook will end up serving most of it to mobile, because that's where they're getting the most engagement on things. And that's ultimately what they want from you is engagement, which is also what they want for their whole advertising thing, because that's how they're going to make money, by people actually clicking and stuff. With me so far? Yeah? Excellent. All right. Facebook family status. So people are actually talking about their families on Facebook. Surprise, surprise. We have an asterisk on here because people don't necessarily actually put the ages of their children in on Facebook. So this data is incomplete. However, it is a bare minimum of what is here. So you're seeing that people do have kids that are posting about them fairly actively from 0 to 3 years old, and then they're not sharing so much when they get into those awkward stages, right? And then, yeah, and then as they get older and graduate and do all that fun stuff, and then they start doing things in college that you don't want to know about. So they're talking about, then they actually get to add them as friends on Facebook, assuming that your kids actually want to do that. Was that a question?
Yes.
Yes.
And how did you mine this data?
It is all available inside Facebook's advertising platform. So when you go to, say, facebook.com/ads/create, then there basically is a 4-part process to go through that ad flow. This is the basic advertising creation thing. First step is what you want, what your goal is, whether it's clicks to a website or page post engagement or offer claims or app installs or something like that. The second part of it is the creative, so what image is going to be used, what text is going to go along with the image. The third section is audience and targeting, and that's where all of the data in this report comes from. So it is all self-reported information by Facebook users, and Facebook making that information available in the aggregate to people like us who have business pages who want to advertise to certain segments of the Facebook audience. Crazy, right? Yeah, before Facebook went public, everybody started talking about Facebook as really being the world's most valuable marketing database because nobody had information like this on anyone, not all those crazy third-party providers and all that. But Facebook is now teaming up with some of those guys and getting even deeper information, which we'll touch on a bit as well as part of this. Select sociographics, things that you can find out also about your Facebook audience. People who are engaged to be married on Facebook, which I guess our own Julie Picard from the Chamber is about to switch from the engaged to the newlywed thing I hear Saturday, so bet she can't be with us. There was a thing I've seen show up a lot in New Hampshire Business Review's business email about the boomerang generation, and they're not actually leaving home. So you can actually see that and advertise to, say, people who are 55 years or older who have kids at home. And there's actually a significant chunk of those people on Facebook. So it's actually borne out by some of the data there. People who are living away from their family, the opposite end of that. People who are away from their hometown, like myself. I grew up in Los Angeles, actually. So all of this information is also reported. So if you want to get people nostalgic about, say, the Los Angeles Dodgers, like I do, because I miss them, then I'm targetable in that way on Facebook, and a lot of your audience is too. All right. Because of the fact that Facebook has now been around for 10 years, not quite as long as Epiphanies Inc., shockingly, but is it crazy to think that it's 10 years for Facebook? That's all? That's all it is. And it just was invented like out of nothing, and now it's this 1.3 billion person thing. Still blows my mind. Multi-generational use is now happening on Facebook, where you actually get 3 generations of people who are sharing information. So all that family information is growing, and so when you talk about places like home care and hospice, for example, you have not only not necessarily the audience for the people who are actually going to be residents of a home care or hospice situation, but you have their children who you can advertise to, for example, who might be considering things like having to address end-of-life situations for their parents. All those people are now there. Partner categories are the things that I was mentioning in terms of third-party companies, which have names that you probably would see in like sci-fi movies, where it would be the sinister corporation that's doing something that you find out is really terrible to people. So we'll show you those in a moment. They're bringing extra information on demographics and purchasing behavior to Facebook, so that way you can also use that kind of information as part of your targeting. Things like for banks, for example, like high likelihood investors. I know that investing and banking is kind of separate sides of the aisle, but still related type stuff for what financial activity they're doing. Axiom, A-C-X-I-O-M, and Datalogix and Epsilon. Those are the 3 partner companies. Sounds sinister, doesn't it? Or is it just me? Like, am I just seeing too many sci-fi movies? I don't know. It just seems like perfect. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to break into one of them and like try and take out the whole system before it becomes self-aware. I don't know. Anyway, this is just a sample of the categories that they offer for your perusing and amusement and targeting on Facebook. Everything from congressional districts and senatorial districts. And when you dig into these, home composition, whether it's owning or renting, baby boomers, affluent baby boomers, purchase transactions, retail spending, and who spends a lot more than other people, TV networks that people are watching, different different types of family composition, job roles and work industries. All of this stuff is available in Facebook for you to use as part of your advertising targeting. It is really mind-blowing, and there's so much of it that I can't show you all of it, but I at least want to introduce you to the idea that this information is out there and exists and will help you put the right message in front of the right person at the right time. there used to be interest in activities, now it's interest in behaviors in Facebook. And this is where you get into the really targeted stuff. Interests include people's interest from their timelines, stuff that they've actually posted on their own Facebook profiles, as well as pages that they like or apps that they are using within Facebook. And it's developed based on how those pages and apps actually refer to themselves, particularly keywords and phrases that they use and what industries they fall in and that sort of thing. Behaviors, however, are constructed from both Facebook activity online and also from offline information that they're getting from these places like Axiom and Datalogix and Epsilon. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, on the interest side of things, this is just a glimpse of what different categories of interest look like on Facebook. So arts and music, entertainment, and mind you, these are things that people are posting about on a regular basis. These are things related to the pages that they like on Facebook, what information that they're sharing and showing allegiance to, basically. Now, for your businesses or your organizations, this is revealing because it'll tell you things that you can talk about and share about and help target particular aspects of your client base. So for example, if you were to host, say, a garden party for the Massachusetts Audubon, well, you might want to consider targeting people who are into food and drink particularly, which is for the ladies, there are around 325,000 people who might actually like to go for a night out, and you can even drill down deeper on that to people who are either quick service restaurant people, because you probably wouldn't want to advertise to those kind of people for a garden party kind of thing, right? But there are also in here charitable donations as an interest category that you can target as well. 220,000 people in the state of New Hampshire have specifically done something related to a charitable cause on Facebook. Now, from a percentage basis, that's actually low because I think the number is 83% of Americans have said that they've donated to some sort of charitable cause in the last year. But the fact that people are posting about it on Facebook is what's particularly of importance to you. Not just because, ooh, it's great they posted on Facebook, but it's because they're publicly visible about it, which means that their whole network of people, their average of 150 people with whom they're connected, will actually have the potential to hear about their charitable activity. So these are people you want to be in front of and connected with because they're not just going to donate, potentially, they're going to share the good word about donation and about your organization. So another reason why it could be valuable. But you can craft your advertising message and you can craft your campaigns and who you target based on things like these categories. And they all subdivide as well into different kinds of music, into television or movies or music or movies or gaming or that sort of thing. So again, a lot of deep dives available. As far as behavior goes, it's the same kind of thing. You can dive into a lot of automotive stuff, for example. So if you want to look at boats or cars or motorcycles, we just had Bike Week up in Laconia. All of this is available as well. On the financial side of things, that also has a whole range of subset things. I just pulled purchase behavior because this is a relatively new one compared to what was available last year. And these are subcategories for what they can pull on purchasing behavior of people who have Facebook accounts. Business purchases. So your business-to-business company, or what kind of business what kind of business purchases are people making? Health and beauty, household, pet products. Somebody said they were volunteering for, yes, that's right. Manchester Rescue?
Manchester Animal Shelter, yeah.
Manchester Animal Shelter, thank you, yes. So people buying pet products. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, dogs win over cats on Facebook, despite all the LOL cats. Yeah, more dog lovers on Facebook, or at least more vocal about it. All of this information, again, just to open your mind to possible. Yes?
And I'm just showing my illiteracy, but
Oh, no.
this is because it's gleaned from posts that people make?
Part of it is yes, and then what happens is that Facebook is working with a couple of outside companies to match the information from their existing user base against the databases of information that some of these other third-party companies have. And once like the Axioms and the Epsilons and the Datalogix, when they figure out, okay, person A in Facebook matches person B in Epsilon, and they make all those connections, then they can bring all of that information together in Facebook and make it available for advertisers to use.
So those other three groups, companies you named,
Yeah.
they're getting their data off of Facebook,
Right.
away from Facebook, but matching to Facebook.
Exactly right.
So it's from credit card purchases or what?
You know what? I don't have the answer to that exactly. I can tell you that it's generally, I can't give you a comprehensive answer, is what I should say. But yes, credit card purchases, surveys, voter registration records, any publicly available information that they can get their hands on, essentially, is what they're using to match up against people. Yeah.
Anyone that has that fine print at the bottom that says, this, your information may be maintained and used by our partner companies, is generally one of those companies. So it's all that small print at the bottom of things that's telling you that they're able to share your information with their partners.
Right. So I guess it's worth a quick digression into the idea of privacy on Facebook, which sounds kind of funny to even consider that there is actually such a thing. So on the one hand, yes, if you're sharing on Facebook, there is essentially no privacy. If you think that you're posting something that's only to a small circle of friends and it's about you and that that beer funnel that you had, like, forget it. Like, just don't do it. Just don't post it. But the other thing is that Facebook has said, specifically Mark Zuckerberg, that the idea is that it's not so much privacy that we're after, is control. And small print like that, like you're talking about, I don't necessarily find that to be something resembling control, especially when the fine print is just part of the fine print, and there's probably something that's a real laundry list that nobody's going to read and whatnot. So ultimately, I think as a nation, we are less and less concerned with the notion of privacy, or we're getting to be brought along that path and more interested in the idea of control. And I do think that that's a whole other conversation, because our notion of control is probably a lot less than what we think it is or what we would like it to be, unfortunately. But it is what it is. And for our purposes here as businesses and organizations, as professionals who are operating on Facebook and knowing that there's a consumer culture on Facebook who is sharing this information, our job is to actually say, okay, well, we need to be in business. We have causes and profit motives to support. And we wouldn't have a job, we wouldn't have a livelihood doing what we do and what we love. Hopefully what we love. I will say it, and I'll dare anybody else to answer this one. How many of you are actually passionate about what you do when you get out of bed in the morning?
Oh, my job.
Right? Okay.
I was going to say.
Right.
Where I do it?
Okay. Right. This is, I think you would all agree, like, that is ultimately the ideal goal for us, right? We would like to make a livelihood out of doing something that we love, that we're fired up about doing in the morning, like, where we know the why of what we do, right? That would be the ideal situation. And so being able to take advantage of opportunities like what Facebook is offering to us with the data that helps us do what we love, because we are trying to serve people. We're trying to serve the world one person at a time, 10 million people at a time, and this information helps us do that better. There are other avenues and other ways to express the concerns that also are legitimately raised by that. But for the purposes of our discussion, we're trying to help support our causes and our own benefits too. All right. Funky things about interests and behaviors and the partner categories things that are out there is that if you just keep them separate, like you build interest upon interest upon interest upon interest, that actually causes your Facebook targeting audience to grow. But if you actually try to do an ad and you've picked a couple of interests and then you try to add a couple of behaviors, it's not an and, it's not an or, it's an and. So that way you actually narrow down the audience of people that you could be targeting. Sometimes this is a good thing, sometimes this is not. Letting you know about this more just so that you understand how the platform works. You can load up a bunch of interests to get a wider audience as long as it's still relevant to what you're advertising. But don't add behaviors in it as well, because then you'll start to narrow down that audience and it won't be reaching the amount of people that you actually want to reach that would be ideal for your audience to see. So use them separately in different ads, and then when you mix them together, then don't do that. Interests are not only limited by the categories that we just saw, arts and music and family and relationships and fitness and wellness and entertainment. Whatever keyword you want to search that's related to your business, you type it into the interest section in Google. We just started working with a client who does past life regression, right? So a special kind of therapy where you go in and they bring you into a semi-trance-like state and help you rediscover past lives. So when you type in past lives, because you can, because it's not one of the regular interest categories, right? You get a whole range of things from Buddhism and Hinduism to reincarnation, and all these other related keyword ideas because people use different words to talk about the same thing on the internet and in Facebook as well. So you can type in whatever is relevant to your business, even if it's not in one of these regular categories, and you will be surprised at what's on there for you. We're going to wrap up that wraps up the stats side of things, and we're going to talk about some things about advertising itself on Facebook and what you can do with it. There's a thing called Power Editor in Facebook. How many of you have heard of Power Editor? Nobody. Okay. Oh, one person. There we go. Of course you have. Power Editor is sort of the deeper level of Facebook advertising. So when I talked about the ad creation flow and how it's your goal, and then your creative, and then your audience and targeting, and then the last part of it is the pricing and budgeting. That's the regular simplified advertising flow. So Power Editor is the deeper, more detailed advertising flow, and you get access to additional features that are really even more super powerful than what is currently available out there. The first of those is custom audiences. So how many of you are currently maintaining an email database for your business or organization? The majority of you, I'd say. So here's what you can do with custom audiences. You can actually upload that email database in an Excel file to Facebook. What Facebook will do inside Power Editor for this custom audiences thing, Facebook will match up the email addresses in your list against the email addresses that people have used to register for Facebook. And once it finds all the matches, then it will create a quote-unquote custom audience, so that way you can advertise specifically to your email subscribers within Facebook. Now, they don't necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily write an ad to those people saying, hey, you're a Centrix Bank email subscriber. Like, that's a little creepy, basically, right? That seems a little weird. But the idea is that you would actually be able to talk to that specific audience in another place where they are spending a large majority of their time. And then you can actually take that custom audience and you can apply all the same filters about demographics and age and gender and interests and behaviors and all of that. You can actually lay those fields over that custom audience so you can target more specifically subsegments of your email database. Now this is only like the first part of the email thing. The cooler thing, I think, is what builds off of that, and that's called lookalike audiences. So because of the fact that Facebook has all of this information, am I even waiting, by the way? Okay, good, thank you. Because Facebook has all of this information about people, they're able to make judgments and say, okay, well, so-and-so is kind of like so-and-so, Heidi's kind of like Jessica, and on and on and on. So what happens is that Facebook will look at your custom audience that you've uploaded and compare its demographic and sociographic and psychographic features to its entire database, and it can create something called a lookalike audience for you. And you can play with a range of similarity versus reach, so people who are as close to your custom audience as possible versus like something with a little wider reach where some factors but not others. You don't get a lot of customization within that. It's just a little bar that expands the reach. But basically, Facebook is going to help you find the clones of the people that are already on your email database. So for example, if you have a list of donors, people who have already expressed their support for your organization, you can upload that donor list specifically into Facebook as a custom audience and then create a lookalike audience out of that and do it, say, based on similarity, so that way you get as close to that donor profile as already exists. And now you have a new audience that you can advertise to that has many of the same features as an audience that has already been successful for you in bringing in revenue to your organization. So much more highly targeted. And you can do the same thing with demographics and age and gender and location and interests and behaviors. You can lay all of that on the lookalike audience as well to narrow it down even further. Third ad feature are sometimes called dark posts. They're technically called unpublished posts, but this is how you get advertising posts into the news feed as opposed to the right-hand column of Facebook. This is how you get them in the news feed without also spamming your page's timeline with a bunch of posts that you want to advertise against. So the big way that this is important is for split testing purposes. So say you want to run an ad campaign for the university and you want to test out 4 different images. Same text, but 4 different images, and see which image pulls the best. But you want it to show up in the newsfeed where interaction is better, where click-throughs and conversions are greater. It used to mean that you would actually have to post 4 times in your own page's timeline and then advertise on those posts. So now people who actually like your page are seeing 4 posts about the same darn thing with different images, and that's not what they want to see. So what you do instead is you use the dark post or the unpublished post feature, where you can actually split test your ads without spamming your page timeline. Another good thing about that is that they also offer you the opportunity to add call to action buttons to your advertisement. So shop now, or learn more, or book now, or download. There's about 7 or 8 different options that they have where you can actually add it in to be part of the Facebook ad itself. And the other cool thing about unpublished posts, the other cool thing is that you can cheat Facebook. You can cheat them because they have, now as somebody who grew up copywriting basically, so having to work with a 25-character limit on a headline and a 90-character limit on body copy for an ad, it's really constricting. But you actually get to cheat that limit in Facebook because of dark posts. You actually get to write body copy and headlines for ads that go beyond what the normal limit is. If you actually try to open those ads in the ad creation flow, it'll show you like, oh, you've gone 225 characters over your specified limit. But you got it through because the whole dark post thing, like they actually let you get away with murder on that. So that's one of my favorite things because it gives me more room to play with words. Next important ad feature is ad sets. So it used to be that Facebook had 2 levels to structuring your ad campaigns. They had the campaign level, where this campaign is going to be about fleet management for June of 2014. And then they had the ads below them. It was just the advertisements themselves. So what they did recently is stick a layer in between called ad sets. And this is going to help you define your targeting a little bit better, because one thing that happens sometimes, and this is actually what Facebook's advertising reps that we've talked to say is one of the most common mistakes that people make. They create ads that end up competing with each other for audience because they make multiple split test versions of an ad, but they'll put them all in one campaign, and maybe one's to one audience and one's to another audience, kind of, but there's overlap. And so what ends up happening is the ads compete against each other and drive the price up, so you actually end up paying more for your ads than you actually need to. So what you can do with ad sets now in that middle layer is you can actually divide up your targeting, so that way it adds a layer of assurance that your own ads are not going to compete against each other for the same audience. One thing that we like to do with our ad sets is say put desktop in one ad set and mobile in another ad set. We just did a campaign for the YMCA of Greater Boston, and the campaign itself was a campaign for their overnight camps, and we separated the ad set underneath for desktop and another ad set for mobile, because that way we knew that Facebook would have to show some of the ad budget to the desktop instead of making it shift all over to mobile like it just does naturally. So we had a better feel for what was actually working for them, which would convert better before we actually then shifted the money one way or the other. We were able to test it better. The last ad feature I'm going to talk about is pixels. How many of you use any kind of cookie or conversion pixel or anything like that on your website right now? Nobody. I promise you it's a lot easier than you think. There are 2 particular kinds of pixels that you use. One of them you've probably already had some experience with. Have you ever gone to, say, Amazon and looked for, I don't know, I'll go with finger puppets again, why not? Look for finger puppets on Amazon, and then 2 days later you're on, I don't know, HuffingtonPost.com, and on the sidebar on one of the ads you see an ad from Amazon for finger puppets, right? Yeah, I see nodding. Okay, so that is one kind of pixel that's being added to your browser. It's called a retargeting pixel or a remarketing pixel. You can do it through Facebook. They have what's called a conversion pixel, and it can be done for targeting, tracking checkouts, registrations inside your ad manager. So basically you just say create a conversion pixel inside your ad creation manager in Facebook, and it'll ask you what the goal is, and then it'll give you the code, and you can either put that code on the website yourself if you're the kind of person who can do that, or you can pass it off to your webmaster, and the webmaster can install it on there, and it will track automatically where people are going. You don't necessarily have to do anything with this. You can just have it installed so that way when you're ready to run ad campaigns, it's there for you to start tracking that data and bring it back into Facebook's ad manager for you. Google actually also now, with their upgrade to Universal Analytics, they have a remarketing pixel that you can install that will deliver that data for you about user behavior after they've come to your website into your Google Analytics. You can do that without actually running a campaign, and you can end up turning it on and off at will, so that way you may have stored up, say, 6 months of data about where users go after they went to your website, And then now that you have 6 months of data, you can start to flip the switch on advertising, and you can have ads show up through remarketing to all those people wherever they are trolling about on the internet. Facebook advertising, to have those ads show up within Facebook, runs through something called the Facebook Exchange. And there are companies like AdRoll, which is probably the big name in the industry, or ExactTarget, or a couple others, where you install this little bit of code either yourself or you have your webmaster do it, and it will track people's visits to your website. And then when they go back to Facebook, they can see an ad for your business or organization when they're on Facebook. And the reason why they'll see it is because they've already been to your website first. So considering the fact that that some of you are spending money on Facebook ads, some of you are not, but probably thinking about doing so or may have it in your budget, the idea of sending traffic to your website from Facebook and not having them do anything and just disappear, I mean, that's kind of a waste of money, right? And we've had no choice about this for a long time, but now thanks to these conversion pixels and retargeting options, now we have the opportunity where somebody who demonstrated enough interest to click and go to your website, maybe they didn't give you their email address to stay in touch with them, but now you have another way to stay in touch with those people and to potentially continue the conversation, give them another way to interact with you that might actually bring them back and actually have them take an action that you wish they had done the first time. Because really, like, who of us here often do things related to a business or spend money the first time you see something? When you haven't been thinking about it yourself, right? We never do it anymore. It takes, like, you just have to be pummeled into making the decision, right? So all the more reason to take advantage of something like this, or just at least be aware that this option is possible. Talk to your, if you have a branding agency that you're working with or a website company that you're working with right now, talk to them about these opportunities. This is something that we can help consult with as well. So what does this all mean for your Facebook fortunes and activities? This is just designed to give you some idea of what's possible. What's possible inside Facebook is really beyond amazing. And every year that I've done this, and every month that I pull the data, I'm kind of astounded at what is happening with Facebook, how incredibly it's grown, and how much information people are sharing, and what we can learn about our society in general. Just even in general, not even talking about the whole business purpose of things. But just Facebook has become such an incredible part of our lives. And one of the crazy things about Facebook is that when you talk to their designers, the people who actually make Facebook look the way it looks, I mean, it doesn't look very pretty, does it? I mean, it's not remarkable in any sense. Like it's almost utilitarian. It's not like cold or anything, or hard in that sense. But that's actually the point. They have specifically worked to design Facebook so you're not even thinking about using Facebook. What you're actually thinking about is going to communicate with your friends and family. So it's not I'm going to go use Facebook right now. It's I'm going to go tell my friends and family about something. And they're trying to stay completely in the background and not even have you think about it. Really kind of zen in a way. And the more you think that experience is how you interact with people, the more that they are going to be able to continue to grow and stay at the top of the heap. And then as even more and more countries come online, developing countries that don't even have internet access yet, this is the one place they're going to be going. There are charts that you can see online, and I can't think of the gentleman's name right now, but every 6 months he does a survey of the world and what the prominent social network is in a given country. And over the last 3 or 4 years, the map of the world has gone from having like a lot of different spotty colors and looking crazy to Facebook's like inexorable taking over of the entire world. I think Russia probably has their own, like, they do have their own like that I can't pronounce, and that's like one of the lone dozen or so holdouts where Facebook is not the dominant social network in the world. It's only going to be more so, and I think all the money rolls to them. This does come down to just what we've been saying this whole time. Just the better you can understand your audience and the opportunities that Facebook's ad platform gives you to target the right message to the right person at the right time, that's going to be your key to business success. And regardless of whether it's Facebook or Twitter or print marketing or or banners and signage or advertising on television or whatever. That's the same idea. It's always been the same idea, no matter what kind of marketing or advertising you're doing in whatever kind of business. Right message, right person, right time, and Facebook offers you the opportunity to do that way more targeted. So, plateauing in the US, but still on the rise at NH. Mobile usage to overtaking desktop usage, which also affects your posting and advertising choices. The fact that we have more competition for the newsfeed, as more people come on to Facebook and as more pages get added to Facebook, there's more competition in the newsfeed for people to be seen. Anybody have a good understanding of how things show up in newsfeed? All right, quick digression about that. There are more than 1,000 different algorithmic factors into what shows up in Facebook's newsfeed, but the three main things that you can get a handle on and have some control over are recency. All things being equal, Facebook will favor a current post over an older post. Engagement potential. So photos and videos have historically shown better engagement on Facebook versus links and status updates. So Facebook's ultimate goal is they need you engaged with it, otherwise you're going to think it's boring and ignore it. So they're, all other things being equal, they're going to show a photo or video because that tends to be historically more engaging. Third thing is what they call affinity, which basically means that if I like the Radisson on Facebook and I like Merchants Fleet Management on Facebook, but historically I've interacted more with merchants over the last 6 months, say, than I have with the Radisson, then YouTube could post the exact same thing at the exact same time, and Facebook is more likely to show me merchants post because I've shown a history of interacting with them more in the past. So those are kind of the three factors that that carry the biggest weight. So now I'm sure all of you have seen like your page's visibility and your reach has gone down over the past year or so. Yeah, exactly. And part of that is because of the fact that there's more competition for it. Part of it is because of the fact that now Facebook as a public company needs to keep generating revenue. And how are they going to do that? On the backs of businesses and professionals to advertise. So they are going to end up weighting the newsfeed more heavily toward personal connections and not business connections. It is the fact of life of business. Yes?
And back when you were on the dark unpublished post, is that, were you saying that you can get something into a newsfeed by having the less than certain character without buying an ad? Or you still have to buy the ad?
You still have to buy the ad. You do. But you can get it into the newsfeed without also having it show up on your business page or your organization's page in the case. So that way you can, and the primary point of that is to be able to test out different images to see which one works best for you, or once you have an image that works, to test out different calls to action for the post that you have. But getting it into the newsfeed, yes, you do still have to pay for that. Otherwise, you're looking at the numbers. The numbers from different studies fluctuate anywhere from 3% to 10% is what the range is I'm hearing now on average for just organic reach, meaning that out of your current liker base, if you have 1,000 likers, then anywhere between 30 and 100 will see a post in their feed on average. And actually, even then, that's kind of a slippery number. Because think about your own Facebook experience. When you go to facebook.com and it loads up the newsfeed for you, how many of you actually scroll all the way down to like the 50th item where it makes the page hit load more and it loads more posts? Right. And would you say that's common, or do you do that not all that often?
I do a comment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So clearly you are in the exception in this room. But what happens is reach being a little squirrely in Facebook, because if you show up in anywhere in that first 50, they consider it reach because they've actually rendered your post in the newsfeed. Now, whether actually somebody has seen it, maybe, maybe not. So your reach actually may be a little lower than what Facebook is actually reporting it to be. It's only reporting the number of times it's been rendered in the number of people in whose newsfeeds it's been rendered. God, that's awkward. Dangling prepositions are going to be the death of me. Anyway, I heard.
So yeah, because I do that. I check like every day. I post, and then I go back and see how many. It says not reached 9 people.
Mm-hmm.
But So even that is like, that's just because they scroll right through it, possibly.
That's possible, yes.
They didn't.
They may not have even paid attention to it, quite honestly. I hate to be the bearer of bad news in that
I'm
sense.
sorry, I'm not.
So all the more reason then to think about your posts and to also then look at Facebook Insights and get an idea of what your most engaging posts are, what actually got reactions out of people, and to start using that as a lesson to consider for how you post in the future. The other thing to look at is also when people are interacting, and so you'll get in Facebook Insights, they give you like a nice little thing, and it usually looks, for most people, it looks kind of like the back of a whale, where like, okay, so I'm behind the screen, and so you're in front of it looking at Insights. And Insights, like the slope of when people are on Facebook that are part of your audience kind of dips on the Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and then starts to crest up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then like just below where the whale's head would be, like leading into Sunday. So heading toward the end of the week is when people tend to be more on Facebook than not for most people's pages, audiences. And also Facebook time of day, secretly, it's almost a little bit like radio, where there's morning drive, and there's lunchtime is big, and then like afternoon just when you're sick of being at your desk, and then evening drive, and then particularly for the parents or also for people who are getting out of app time right after the kids go to bed. So there's also a hotspot in there as well. Those are prime times for people to be on Facebook. And so when you think about newsfeed and how recency is part of what gets calculated in the newsfeed and it gets favored, then that has implications for when you decide to post. Now, if you're in a 9-to-5 job, but you actually need to be connecting to, say, parents, for example, or people who have, people who are adult children of parents, say, for example, to take the home care and hospice example again, but you have a 9-to-5 job and you are not going to be posting at 9 p.m. because you really don't want to bring your work home with you, well, that's when you use scheduling on Facebook to have your posts preloaded and ready to go. So that way there's actually the opportunity to connect with the audience when they are there and have a better chance of reaching them. I would highly recommend, if you're scheduling posts, to do it within Facebook's own post scheduling thing and not do it, say, through the likes of Hootsuite. I like Hootsuite a lot. For those of you who don't know Hootsuite, it's a social media management dashboard and can show you searches on different terms and help you manage multiple social media profiles, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Google Plus and whatnot. But there's argument back and forth on this as to whether Facebook dings third-party applications like Hootsuite in the newsfeed. I personally think that if Facebook's goal is to have all of us on Facebook so they can show us advertisements, which is how they make money, then Facebook would not want us to be posting onto Facebook through applications like Hootsuite, because that means that we're not getting to see the ads even as we're doing the work for our business. So there have been some studies that claim that there is a negative effect on posting with third-party applications on Facebook. There's been nothing conclusive, but my gut tells me that it's better to be on Facebook, posting on Facebook, if you want to have a better chance of your posts being seen by your audience, all other things being equal. I used to have that as an acronym in presentations, but then I got bored with it. So anyway, and tools and targeting make it better. So that's the end of the presentation portion of the session, and this is just to tell you a little bit about us and all the things that we do aside from Epiphanies Inc. And I mentioned we do the AHA Summit, the social media conference, and we've also launched a couple of new ventures including 31 Days of Possibility and Joy Notes. So if you ever like writing little inspirational things on Post-it notes, take a picture of it and tag it with my Joy Note and post it to Twitter and Instagram, and we'll make sure we share it with the world as well. And then there is one other thing. The blue pieces of paper that are on your tables are about this thing called the AHA Tribe that we did, which is a social media marketing and mentoring mastermind community. And we actually have a couple members here, in Jessica, and Jessica, I haven't met your compatriot. Hi, nice to meet you. And also Heidi is a member of the tribe as well. And I won't belabor what's there, but it's just to say that we do monthly webinars on a bunch of different topics, and what you're seeing is the list of topics. And even though it is the end of June and a lot of these have been done, They're all archived on-demand webinars for you to watch and rewatch anytime that you want. We also do expert interviews for these different topics as well, and there's a Facebook community where people are contributing their knowledge and information and resources in a mastermind fashion. And we are also in there pretty much daily answering questions that people have about not just social media platforms, but also things like video capabilities and whatnot. So you name it, if it's related to digital marketing, we're talking about it in there. On the other side of it, there's a thing, these forms are actually a little bit old. They were produced for events in May. The current price on the website right now for it is $447, but we're running an event special to say thank you for taking the time to come to this workshop. Through Friday, the price is not actually the $447 or the $397 that's on the form, but it's actually $247, and that's a lifetime thing. It's a one-time thing to get access to all the content for 2014 and beyond. So normally it would be at ahatribe.com, but if this is something that you're interested in, and I know some people have to get purchasing approvals and whatnot, there's a secret website link for that that's not on the form. It's ahanh.com, ahanh.com, if that's something that you would like to look into, and it has a lot more information about the program. So, and I'll answer questions about that too. But in the meantime, I think we have at least 10 minutes. And if there's anything that anybody would like to see, I am online, and we can pull open Facebook, and we can pull open Power Editor, and we'll see you later. And does anybody